Okay, we're going to wait about one more minute before we get started, but I wanted to let you know that we will be starting shortly. Thank you so much. Good morning, everyone. I'm Jan Risher, and I'll be acting as the MC today and moderator for the call. We welcome each of you to the virtual press conference, and we're excited about sharing the updated United Way ALICE report for Louisiana with you and the rest of the state. We're also excited about the potential it offers to create a positive difference for many in Louisiana. Before we get started, we'd like to take a moment to address a few housekeeping issues. First, if you have a question now or during the course of the press conference, please post it in the chat and we will work with you to get the question answered. You can also send those questions directly to me privately, and we will either answer them at the end of the press conference or directly in the chat. So secondly, if you are a member of the media, if you wouldn't mind going ahead and sending me privately your name and your media affiliation in the chat, that would be super. Thank you. We will manage mutes and unmutes throughout the call. And during the course of the press conference, we are going to host 5 speakers during the next 40 minutes. Once they finish, we will answer the questions that have come in and open the floor to other questions. The graphics used on the slides today can be made available to the media upon request after the presentation. And please note that all questions related to regional or local ALICE activities will be deferred to the respective United Way CEO serving specific regions across the state. And I'm happy to assist in connecting you with those executives. At the end of the press release that you received earlier, you will find regional CEO quotes and a list of media contacts for all CEOs involved in the press release, originally issued July the 23rd. But we can send that to you again if you need it. And without any further delay, please let me welcome Sarah Berthelot, President and CEO of Louisiana Association of United Ways. Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you, and thank you everyone for joining our press conference today. United Ways throughout Louisiana have worked together to give an identity and voice to people who work hard, yet struggle to make ends meet. People we call ALICE. The concept of ALICE is new for some members of our press today, so I'll take a moment to introduce ALICE. ALICE stands for Asset Limited Income Constrained Employed. We all know ALICE. ALICE is the hard worker who waits on our table, fixes our car, checks us out at the grocery store, and cares for our elderly and young, and so much more. ALICE earns more than the federal poverty level, however, not enough to meet the basics. The survival budget serves as an anchor for the ALICE measure. Let's take a look at the updated survival budget released today as part of the 2020 ALICE report for Louisiana to better understand the challenges that ALICE faces in our state. This budget includes essentials such as housing, childcare, food, transportation, healthcare, and technology. This budget does not include optional items such as birthday gifts, saving for a rainy day or a college fund, dining out, haircuts, or unexpected family needs as common as replacing a flat tire. And it does not account for saving for unexpected work interruptions like so many have experienced in the recent months. You'll see that for a single adult in Louisiana to afford these basics, one needs to earn $24,252 annually. And for a family of 4 with 2 small $152 are needed to cover these basics. New this year, we offer a survival budget for senior living alone, totaling $27,000 annually. You'll note that all of these amounts exceed the federal poverty income threshold. The annual income at the poverty level for a single adult, including a senior, is $12,140, and for a family of 4, it is only $25,100 per year. The ALICE measure provides a sharper picture of financial need and vulnerability than the federal poverty measure, which was created in America in 1955. And economists use this data to determine that families surveyed spent 1/3 of their income for food. Believe it or not, this exact same formula is still how the federal poverty level is determined today. It is adjusted for inflation and the difference between the cost of food, but the federal poverty level does not take in consideration the vast changes in lifestyle, including working mothers, childcare, transportation needs, and the changes of cost of medical care and insurance of our lives today versus the lives of Americans in 1955. Alice works hard, yet faces tough financial choices due to the inability to meet this budget. Alice is forced to choose between food and other essentials like medicine on a regular basis. To put this in perspective, the median hourly wage for a cashier, which is the most common occupation in our state, was $9.10 or $18,200 per year in 2018, less than all of the survival budgets outlined on this slide. Louisiana, leveraging 2018 data on using public data sources. This ALICE research provides the backstory on why the COVID-19 crisis is having such a devastating economic impact on families in Louisiana. This report also provides new tools for understanding ALICE, such as the new Essentials Index, information on Louisiana's labor landscape, and an equity framework, all of which you will hear more about later in the presentation. With the inability to get ahead or build assets, ALICE is just one emergency away from spiraling into a financial crisis. For many, COVID-19 became that one universal emergency. These workers have faced the fears of contracting COVID-19 without adequate healthcare coverage or paid sick leave, and very limited or no options to perform duties virtually. Plus, childcare access and school closures have impacted critical services supporting children. This report confirms that when COVID-19 hit, more than 576,000 Louisiana households were ALICE, a 10-year record high at 33% of all households in Louisiana. When factoring in the 18% of households in poverty, 51% of all households in Louisiana were below the ALICE threshold or unable to make ends meet with their earnings before the pandemic hit. Several groups have a disproportionately high percentage of families below the ALICE threshold. In our state, the top 3 groups in Louisiana include senior households, Black households, and households led by single females with children. Over the course of the last decade, conditions for ALICE have not moved in the right direction. Louisiana's low-income families have systematically lost buying power and financial stability as the rising costs for essentials have outpaced wages, driving the number of ALICE households to rise from 23% in 2007 to 33% in 2018. You'll hear more about the rising cost of these essentials in just a moment. Today's release joins a series of Louisiana-specific research-based reports made possible by the Entergy Corporation and United Ways throughout Louisiana. We work in partnership with United for ALICE to equip stakeholders across all sectors to encourage the use of its findings to remove obstacles for financial stability and build data-driven solutions to help ALICE. Entergy has served as the state sponsor since this work began in 2015. It is my honor to introduce Patty Riddleberger to share a statement from Entergy. Patty serves as the Vice President of Corporate Social Responsibility for this Fortune 500 company. In this role, Mrs. Riddleberger develops customer social responsibility strategies that strengthen stakeholder relationships and create sustainable value for the company, its 14,000 employees, and 2.5 million customers in communities across the Southeast and Northeast United States. Patty, we thank you and we welcome you to share a few words.
Good morning. Thank you. Thank you, Sarah. On behalf of Entergy Corporation, it's an honor and a privilege to partner with the Louisiana Association of United Ways and all of our United partners across the state to bring the ALICE report to life. At Entergy, our vision is we power life, and that means providing safe, reliable, and affordable electricity to our customers. But it also means ensuring that our communities, our friends and neighbors have the resources that they need to thrive and be successful. Unfortunately, for far too many Louisiana households, they're missing those resources, and the situation is not getting any better. In fact, the challenges that our state and our nation face today as a result of COVID-19 rival conditions during the Great Depression. Even before COVID-19 hit, as many as 74% of the calls to our call center come from households that face some level of financial hardship. These are households that struggle month to month and who are often one calamity away from financial ruin. As Sarah mentioned earlier, for many of them, that calamity was COVID-19. As of the end of July, almost 600,000 households across the Entergy service area are in arrears in their electric bill. July marked the highest number of customers receiving assistance payments in a single month in company history. More than 8.3 million in assistance payments were processed in July, which is double the normal amount for July, and we believe August is likely going to be worse. These grim statistics underscore the need for the ALICE report. The ALICE report helps us not only shine a spotlight on the problem and bring the stories of those who struggle to light, but more importantly, it provides data that can help identify effective and efficient solutions. This data helps companies like Entergy invest our philanthropic dollars in programs that truly make a difference by providing a hand up and not just a handout, by equipping individuals and families with tools to weather the storms of life, regardless of whether the storm is COVID-related or not. 2019 marks 20 years since Entergy's former CEO and chairman, J. Wayne Leonard, established alleviating poverty as a major corporate cause for Entergy. Over the years, Entergy has teamed up with community partners and organizations such as United Way to invest in solutions that have made a difference for countless thousands of families. That work is more important now than ever. If nothing else, COVID-19 has demonstrated that ALICE is absolutely indispensable. ALICE is essential for our society to function, and it's incumbent on society to come together as businesses, nonprofits, and government to be there for ALICE when she needs us. So in closing, I commend the Louisiana Association of United Ways and our United Way partners across the state for engaging in this important work. We at Entergy are proud to stand with you and do our part. Thank you.
Thank you, Patty, and thank you everyone at the Entergy Corporation for your partnership for ALICE. We are also grateful to you specifically, Patty, for your leadership and service to the Louisiana Research Advisory Committee and participation in the ALICE National Advisory Committee. On this note, we'd like to take a moment to recognize the 25 members of the Louisiana Research Advisory Committee for your service to this project. These volunteers, coming from all regions of our state, contribute their expertise to this project and serve as champions for ALICE year-round. Thank you to these research advisory members. Now I turn it back over to Jan to introduce our next speakers.
So we had a slight change of plans for our next speaker, and the reason is good. I'm so happy to introduce Florence Jackson, who's a financial counselor with the United Way of Northwest Louisiana, and she will read a statement from her client, Chelsea Smith, and explain why Chelsea was not able to be with us today. Florence?
Good morning, everyone. My name is Florence Jackson, and I am a financial counselor for the City of Shreveport Financial Empowerment Center and United Way of Northwest Louisiana. I've had the pleasure of And now I'll read her statement. My name is Chelsea Smith. I am 33 and the mother of 5 children. Children ages 14, 8, 7, 2, 1, and 1. 4 boys and 1 girl. Khalil, Nicole, Andrew, Nico, and Aiden. If you're wondering, the answer is yes, they are a handful. Being home with them through this strange experience has been eventful and tiring, exhausting, nerve-wracking, and some wonderful thrown in too. I lost my job as an administrative assistant as the COVID-19 pandemic started. I've been looking for a job since. I'm happy to say that the reason I'm not here with you today is that I found a new job that started this week. I'm grateful to be working again. For the record, I am Alice. Trying to make ends meet with my crew has been a challenge. Just keeping them all fed is tough. Fortunately, my kids all love ramen noodles. Honestly, that helps. I mix up the menu, but they would eat ramen noodles for every meal if I let them. My older kids help with the younger ones. They go outside, they watch TV. 2 weeks ago, my 7 and 8-year-olds started working on their reading with some workbooks to get them ready for back to school. If you're curious, with the stimulus and unemployment, I was making more than I had been when I was working full time. I also get child support. I have to pay my rent, electric, car note, car insurance, cell phone bill, student loans, and some past bills that we're working on to get in good standing. I've also saved a little bit here and there. Thanks to the work I've done with my financial counselor, she's helped me get on track and get a better credit score so that eventually I can achieve my ultimate goal, home ownership. Anywhere we are is home, but I want a place that belongs to me. One of my dreams is to decorate the home I own. In the first month I worked with Florence, she helped me improve my credit score by 75 points. I make my financial decisions carefully, but that means making some difficult choices. For example, before everything changed, my 7 and 8-year-old were in football and cheerleading. They were happy, they loved it. Andrew was playing football and Nicole was cheering him on. There was uniform fees that I couldn't pay. And at the same time, we were about to get evicted from the apartment we were living in. Someone offered to pay the fees so they could be a part of the teams. I went ahead and used the money offered to pay fees so my kids could stay involved with something they both love. We left the apartment to find a new home. Sometimes people ask me, where do I get my strength? The answer is easy. I get it from my mom and grandmother. My mom is one of the toughest people I know. Now I am the best, sorry. Now I am doing my best to realize my own strengths so my kids will one day be able to say the same thing. Thank you.
Thank you, Florence. You did a great job. We appreciate you standing in for Chelsea. And some of the media have had a question regarding recording from the Zoom, and you're welcome to do that. You'll need to ask permission with Robin Taylor for that. Thank you. Next, we're introducing Dr. Ashley Anglin. She's a member of United for Alice national team and conducts research, writes reports, and supports the development of new Alice tools and collaborations. United for Alice is a grassroots movement of over 650 United Ways in 21 states, corporations, and foundations, all using the same methodology to document financial need. Dr. Anglin?
Thank you for the introduction. I'm honored to join you today to highlight some of the new features of the 2020 ALICE report for Louisiana. But before I do that, I want to take a moment to thank you all for your participation and your commitment to ALICE and the state. United for ALICE is a partnership, it's a collaboration, and our work with United Way representatives, community organizations, businesses, research advisory committee members, press, ALICE households all throughout the state of Louisiana is really what has brought this research to life. So thanks to each and every one of you on the call today. Earlier in the presentation, Sarah did a fantastic job of sharing the fundamental measures of the ALICE research, the household survival budget, and the number of ALICE households in the state. To further expand our understanding of financial hardship, our latest report now includes several new features, 3 of which I'm going to highlight for you now. The first is our new ALICE Essentials Index. Since the start of this project, we've seen the cost of household basics rise in each of our partner states at a rate that seemed much faster than the national inflation rate we hear about. Now, with a decade of data, we're able to systematically track change over time in the cost of basic household necessities. You can see the ALICE Essentials Index compared to the Consumer Price Index, which is the most commonly used measure of inflation in the US. The CPI covers a large group of goods and services that consumers buy, including things like appliances, apparel, vehicles, recreation, things that most ALICE households can't afford, at least not on a regular basis. ALICE households are focused on paying for the essentials, and that's what's captured by the ALICE Essentials Index: housing, childcare, food, transportation, healthcare, and a smartphone plan. And what we see is that across the country, the ALICE Essentials Index has increased faster than the CPI over the last decade. From 2007 to 2018, the average annual rate of increase for the ALICE Essentials Index was 3.4%, while the CPI increased by 1.8%. And this difference is primarily due to the fact that the cost of basics, especially housing and healthcare, have increased, while the cost of other items, like manufactured goods, including apparel and cars, have remained relatively flat. And while basic household goods are generally more expensive in urban areas compared to rural areas, the costs have increased at nearly the same rate in both areas during this period. The difference between these measures of inflation is more than just an academic question. The CPI is used to measure inflation and monitor monetary policy. It also determines the rate at which a wide range of government program levels and benefits are increased, including Social Security, veterans and federal civil service retiree benefits, government assistance programs, the federal poverty level, income tax brackets, and income tax credits. But the ALICE Essentials Index shows that from 2007 to 2018, the CPI considerably underestimated the increase in the costs for ALICE households across the country. And if you want to learn more about this new piece and new analysis, you can visit unitedforalice.org/essentials-index. Next, we have a new exploration of the labor landscape and how jobs have shifted in the state over the last decade. This figure takes all the jobs in the state and splits them into 3 groups. The dark blue jobs cannot support the household survival budget for a family with 2 adults and 2 children, even with 2 earners. So that's 2 people working full-time year-round and still not making enough to cover the basics for a family. The number of these jobs increased a substantial 49% during this period and actually became the largest number of jobs in the state by 2018. The light blue line shows medium wage jobs. So these are jobs that support the family household survival budget with 2 earners. And the gold line shows what we call high wage jobs, jobs that pay enough for the earner to cover the basics for a family of 4. Both medium and high wage jobs actually decreased during this period. Overall, the total number of the jobs in the state did increase, which is something we heard a lot about in the news. But that growth was driven by low wage jobs that could not support even the most basic costs. And the mix of jobs shifted dramatically. Out of all jobs, the percentage that were low wage increased from 29% in 2007 to 48%, almost half of all jobs by 2018. So in 2018, when the national economy was often described as strong, the reality was that over 890,000 Louisiana households, over half of households in the state, struggled to support themselves. If all households earned enough to meet their basic needs, not only would family hardship be eased, but the Louisiana economy would benefit substantially. This is true in times of economic growth, but it's even more important now during a period of crisis and recovery. That's why our latest report also includes an analysis that we call the benefits of moving toward equity. For this analysis, we asked a big question. If all households had income to afford the basics, what would be the impact on the state economy? We then looked at the impact on earnings, tax revenue, and community spending of bringing all households up to the ALICE threshold. Here we can see those substantial impacts on the equities slide. Let's see if we can bring that one up. So based on 2018 data, the economic benefit of bringing all Louisiana households to the ALICE threshold would be approximately $55.3 billion. That includes $21.4 billion in additional earnings, which leads to increased consumer spending, spurring economic growth for a total contribution of $47.1 billion. That's in addition to $1.8 billion due to growth from increased tax revenue, and $6.4 billion that can be reallocated from funds currently spent on poverty alleviation. So funds that can be used to help communities thrive, not just survive. This contribution to the GDP would grow the state economy by 12%. While lifting family income would be an enormous undertaking, the statewide benefit of doing so makes a compelling case for pointing both policy and investment toward that goal. In other words, the strength of the Louisiana economy is inextricably tied to the financial stability of its residents. Financial stability is not only important for families, it matters for Louisiana communities and has a ripple effect throughout the entire state. What ALICE helps us all. In summary, over the past decade, a time that was labeled as a period of recovery from the Great Recession, we saw substantial increases in the cost of the basic essentials, employment growth driven by jobs that couldn't afford even the most basic costs, and a growing number of ALICE households. While we sang the praises of an economy in recovery, ALICE households never recovered. Things only got worse for this too often hidden population. And unfortunately, without substantial intervention to redirect our course, we're on track to see the same trend of growing financial hardship as a result of this pandemic. But this also imagine what a strong economy could look like, one that takes us beyond the status quo that wasn't working for over half of Louisiana households, one that supports ALICE and in turn benefits all of us. Thank you for your time today. And with that, I'm going to turn it back to Sarah Berthelot.
Thank you, Dr. Anglin, and for your work for Louisiana and your partnership. Dr. Anglin will be available for questions at the end of our press conference. Now that you've heard a briefing on the 2020 ALICE report released today, as a supplement to this report, we also released findings from the Louisiana United Way COVID-19 survey, capturing the specific challenges of ALICE and those living in poverty. The survey were more vulnerable before the pandemic and were hit harder financially when the economic shutdown occurred. More than 2,000 survey respondents from all regions of our state shared how their work arrangements had changed after the shutdown, their biggest concerns related to the pandemic, and what type of help would make the biggest difference to their families in this crisis. For these findings and others, take a look at our supplemental piece, Louisiana in the Age of COVID-19 Through the Lens of ALICE, Results from the Louisiana United Way COVID-19 Survey. You can find this piece at launitedway.org or at United Way websites throughout Louisiana. Special thanks to Dr. Stephen Dick and the United for ALICE research team for your technical assistance for this statewide project. As a final note, I want to thank the media and all of our partners for your attendance today and your concern and care for ALICE. We are grateful for the media coverage of ALICE and encourage the media to connect with your local United Way to discuss their work for ALICE. United Ways working hard for ALICE include the Capillary United Way based in Baton Rouge, led by George Bell, St. John United Way based in Laplace, led by Artis Williams, United Way of Iberia based in New Iberia, led by Carlene Ruley, United Way of Acadiana based in Lafayette, led by Carly Labar, United Way of Central Louisiana based in Alexandria, led by David Britt, United Way of Northeast Louisiana based in Monroe, led by Janet Durden, United Way of Northwest Louisiana based in Shreveport, led by Dr. Bruce Wilson, United Way of St. Charles based in Luling, led by John Diaz, St. Landry Evangeline United Way based in Opelousas, led by Ginger LeCompte, United Way of Southeast Louisiana, based in New Orleans, led by Michael Williamson, and the United Way of Southwest Louisiana, based in Lake Charles, led by Denise Durrell. Thank you for your attendance for today's press conference and presentation. We appreciate your partnership, and I now turn it back over to our moderator, Jan Risher.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Dr. Anglin and Patty, for your presentations, and Florence Jackson for pinch hitting for Chelsea Smith. Thank you all. Also, to everyone who's attended, we appreciate your attendance and your partnership for Alice, and wanted to let you know that individual interviews can be scheduled with all of the speakers for today. And if you have questions about graphics during the PowerPoint, we can make those available to you, and a recording of this whole press conference for you as well. If you have not downloaded the report yet, or if you need the correct address to share, go to www.unitedforalice.org, and you can find the digital chart and the graphics about Louisiana specifically. For social media, we encourage the use of the hashtag Alice and hashtag Meet Alice on social media. We will be happy to connect you with the right people and get all of your questions answered. So at this time, we've gotten a couple of questions in. The first question is for Dr. Anglin, and the question is about debt, Dr. Anglin. How does debt play into the Alice survival budget?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the household survival budget is the bare bones basics. So it's the basic cost of living in each of those budget areas that we covered. And it doesn't include things like debt, student debt, credit card debt, other expenses. So a lot of households in the state, on top of struggling to meet these basic costs, are also trying to make decisions about when and how to pay off debt. And so that's a really important point. It's not captured. So sometimes we can really say the magnitude of that financial hardship is greater for a lot of households. But also on the flip side, some households do have additional assets that can help them in times of financial hardship. We've seen a lot of households have to liquidate some of those assets when times get tough, putting a mortgage out on loan, or being refinancing, or selling a car, or in a lot of cases with COVID, people selling personal belongings and things to make ends meet. So it doesn't cover those assets or those debts. So we know that financial hardship is a really fluid thing for households across the state.
And we have a second question for you, Dr. Anglin. Can you talk a little bit about the data? Is it only available at the state level, or can it be broken down further?
One of the great things about this research is that it's actually built from the parish level up. And so we have data available on unitedforalice.org/Louisiana, where you can look at the household budgets, you can look at demographics, you can look at the job landscape at the parish level as well. You can also combine parishes to look at a region across. On that site, you can also look at the sub-parish level. So you an above Alice threshold for parish subdivisions, zip codes. So that's a great way to check it out if you want to get more localized data and want to see how the Alice households and the percentage of those households vary across the state. So again, that's unitedforalice.org/Louisiana. It's really interactive. Encourage you to get on there, click around, try it out, and let us know if you have additional questions from that.
Great. Another question came in for Patty. If you're available, Patty, are you there?
Hi, I'm here.
Okay, the question is, why does Entergy continue to be involved in the Alice work?
We're involved in Alice because Alice is our customer. For any company, in order to be successful, you have to be tuned into the needs of your customer, and Alice is our customer. We know that somewhere in the neighborhood of 50 to 60% of our customers are struggling to pay their bills, and they have to juggle every month. Am I going to be able to pay my mortgage? Am I going to be able to buy food? Am I going to be able to pay utility bills? Those are the three things that are often at the top of the list for Alice families. And so since that matters to our customers, it matters to our company. It's it's a matter of economic survival for our company and also benefit to our customers and society as a whole.
Thank you so much. This next question could be for Dr. Anglin or Sarah. You may have something to contribute here, but the question is really about the cost of food and feeding families and what efforts are being taken to teach and assist families in gardening and growing their own food. Just in the absence of financial help, would this be a viable option? Ashley or Dr. Anglin?
I'll add one thing there. So I'll let Sarah and maybe others in the state speak to efforts that are going on. But one thing that we do see is with housing or the food costs, they're from the Thrifty plan. So even these costs are, again, bare minimum. So most housing costs and food costs are even a little bit higher than what we estimate. And so in addition to kind of having the resources to pay for food, we also know that ALICE households in a lot of cases are working multiple jobs, are juggling childcare and work and transportation. And so, in our experience, we've had a lot of households that, even if they have the skills to garden or to even go to a local farm or farmer's market, might not have the time to do that work intensive process. And so, part of it is providing education and resources, but we also have to keep in mind that ALICE households are really, in many cases, working so hard that these extra things and the things that might help are out of reach still.
Great. Are there any other questions? And there's some comment in the chat about payday lenders and that.
Yeah, that is definitely something that we've seen because again, we have on our website what we call the consequences of insufficient income. It's a report that you can see at unitedforalice.org/consequences. And really what that looks at is what are the tough choices that are available to ALICE households when they don't have the income to afford each of these household items. And so when ALICE households are stretched and they have a tough choice between paying for electricity, keeping the electric on, getting medication for a kid who might need it, paying for food for the family, they're having to juggle and make these decisions. And so when there are resources like payday lenders or other types of borrowing opportunities, they might have to take them even knowing, fully aware that the return on those investments is not good, that they might end up defaulting on those loans, that the interest rates are incredibly high, and that in the long term, it might hurt their finances and often does hurt their finances. But in the moment, when you got to put food on the table, you have to pay for that medication, you got to put your kids in school, that sometimes that decision is the one you have to make. And so we definitely see, we call them tough choices, but really they're impossible choices. And so that's something that you can learn more about if you want to look at that consequences report where we outline each of those different budget areas.
And just a follow-up question on that, Dr. Anglin. One of our viewers says that Arkansas got rid of payday lenders. Do we know the results on their ALICE population? And is this something that Louisiana might consider?
Arkansas is one of our partner states. They're new, so we're going to be, they haven't released the report this year yet, but unfortunately the ALICE budget doesn't take into consideration these payday loans, but we have seen when ALICE households have financial tools available to them that don't incur additional debt and to have a lower rate of default, that they're able to pass these moments of hardship much better and at a much quicker rate and with fewer long-term consequences. So, we don't promote specific policies, but we definitely know that accessible financial tools can benefit households.
Thank you so much. Sarah, you might want, or Dr. Anglin may want to speak to this one. What policies or programs do United Way support to help families become more financially stable?
Well, United Ways in Louisiana joined United Ways throughout the United States to support measures with Congress in just the past 60 days. And some of these measures many of them were aimed at supporting struggling families, especially in the midst of this crisis. Example of such requests that we have made is the expansion of the earned income tax credit, the childcare tax credit to support working and individual households, providing temporary increases to the federal Medicaid assistance percentage to our state to support the growing need for Medicaid, investments in 211, increased funding to the emergency food and shelter programs throughout our state, increased funding to VITA to build the capacity for VITA to support our workers in properly filing. This was a very atypical tax season. This past season, it went on longer and it was a bit more complicated. To increase supports for SNAP food benefits for families that need the extra help right now, to support funding to ensure that there's proper supports to our childcare industry and childcare access. And also we advocated for investments in workforce training and skill building to strengthen our workers in Louisiana. And of course, mental health access. The list can go on, but these are some examples of how Louisiana United Ways joined hands with United Ways throughout the country to bring awareness to these needs. We had meaningful conversations just this past month with our congressional delegation, and we're going to continue to work hard together. All of these things are aimed at supporting ALICE during this pandemic and helping them navigate the very tough choices that are made each and every day by these ALICE families that are impossible. And I welcome many of my colleagues to add to what I just shared.
Dr. Anglin, I think we have one last question for you. Has the National ALICE team considered researching best practices or promising practices that improve conditions for ALICE families within communities or states?
So our partnership spans 21 states, and as part of that, we have a national kind of learning community where we often have calls and share out best practices, and we're working on a way to integrate that into our website to share more widely as well. We've piloted something in New Jersey that we call the ALICE Action Network, where we're specifically looking at the impacts in the business sector for supporting ALICE workers. But we're also looking to expand that to other areas. So we're always open, feel free to share any promising practices that you come across or that you've implemented. We're collecting these and we're looking to kind of bring that into our work in the future. But absolutely learning from one another of what's going well across our communities is a really important factor of this work. And so definitely encourage everyone to share the work that they're doing related to this and share it with the national team. We love to always contribute to that and share it out via our social media as well.
Thank you so much. I believe we've gotten all the questions that have come in answered. If there is anything else, please let us know. We are asking everyone who's watching to please share the report on social media with the hashtag ALICE and hashtag #MeetAlice. You know, the more people who find out about this, the more good we'll be able to do. There's a lot of power sometimes with people who are ALICE just finding out that somebody's paying attention. There's a name for it. You can also go to see United for ALICE on Twitter at United4ALICE. And we are just grateful that you were here today. If you have any questions, let us know. If there's something else you need specifically regarding slides or graphics or recordings, let us know that if you haven't already gotten that question answered. So Sarah, would you like to close us out?
Well, I just want to thank everyone again. We have, all of you have made a real difference in raising awareness around ALICE. As United Ways throughout the state, we are eager to partner with you. I encourage you to reach out to your local United Way if you haven't already to discuss how we might be able to work together to support ALICE. And again, if you need anything related to the content, the graphics, or if you want to talk to anyone about the work around ALICE, we're eager to talk to you. So thank you, and everyone stay well.
We did have one last question.
Okay.
The last question is for Dr. Anglin. Speak about financial hardship in Black households in Louisiana.
Yeah, absolutely. So one thing we do see is there are different groups across the state that are more likely to be ALICE. And one of those groups that is disproportionately ALICE is Black households, with almost 70% of households, Black households in the state being below the ALICE threshold. That is significant. That's a larger gap than we see in many other states, and it has been growing over time. We did release at the national level a comparison in financial hardship comparing Black and white households that you can see at unitedforalice.org/disparities, where we talk about this at the national level and really get into some of the root causes for those differences. But in Louisiana, we know that that is a substantial part of the population. We know that institutionalized racism and discrimination have contributed that over years in our communities. And it's definitely something where we see major disparities that have ripple effects, not just on finances, but also on health, well-being, access to jobs, and access to opportunities. So encourage you to check out that report where we cover those differences, but I appreciate you bringing that up as well. And those gaps are something that we also need to focus on in addressing equity. When we talk about that equity lens for income, we know that the same approaches are not, there's no cookie cutter approach that's going to work for all communities, and addressing those root causes of financial hardship that disproportionately impact households of color, and in particular Black households, is definitely key to that future of a more equitable and sustainable economy for all of us.
Thank you so much, Dr. Anglin, for spending your morning with us. And thanks to each of you for being here with us today. If you have further questions or need more information, please let us know, and we will do our best to get that to you. And with that, we'll close out the day. And I wish we had some departure music, but I don't. So I'm not going to sing. Thank you guys so much. We appreciate your time.